Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Saturday, August 16th, 2025. And a little bit brisk this morning, hence the beanie. It's 3 degrees and with a high of 7 degrees today. So just a little reminder that it is still winter. I do like days like today though, just on the weekends where you can put the feet up, watch the footy, put the fire on, and just a good excuse to do nothing. So bring it on, I say. On to the boxing. Today in boxing history, let's go back to 1997. In France, Argentina's Marcelo Dominguez defended the world cruiserweight title by defeating fellow Frenchman. Oh, sorry, it wasn't fellow Frenchman. It was just a Frenchman. His name was Akim Tafer. That was on points. In 2014, American Omar Figueroa defended the world lightweight title with a knockout of Mexico's Daniel Estrada. That was in Carson, California. 9th round knockout, that one was. 2014, American Anthony Durrell defended his world super middleweight title by defeating Sakio Bika, the Cameroon fighter turned Australian fighter. Well, you know what I mean? Took place in Carson, California. Never really had a lot of luck in some of these big fights, Sakio Bika, but really made a mark for himself in world boxing after relocating to Australia. I'm not sure at what point, but he was from Cameroon originally and now I would say a proud Aussie citizen anyway. The other one I want to go back to is 2003. Now this is Australia's Danny Green challenged German Marcus Bayer for the WBC super middleweight title, 168. And it was in Germany, in Nürburgring in Germany. And I think we all know the result or the outcome of this fight. Danny Green, he dropped Marcus Bayer in rounds 1 and 2, had him on toast, dominated the fight. He had a point taken away for what the referee deemed a deliberate headbutt. And then they opened up the cut on Marcus Bayer's eye. And then in round 5 was judged to have used his head again to open that cut right up, or might have been another cut, I can't remember what it was. And it was subsequently disqualified. Now, the controversy around this fight is that even though, look, in the 5th round, look, what happened in there, I'll cut a long story short. Danny Green was on the verge of winning the WBC super middleweight title in a massive upset of a proven German champion in Germany. And the officials and the judge, well, you know, I'm just not putting things out there, but pretty obvious to see they were looking for any excuse to turn the tables on this fight and put the fight back in Marcus Bayer's favour. And Danny gave them I suppose an excuse to do that in round 5. As I said, he got the point taken away in round number 2, but he in round number 5, could be deemed a deliberate headbutt. It was a really careless thing to do. It really was. He didn't need to do it. I know the adrenaline and the excitement and everything else would have been building up, and he would have known he was on the verge of winning that belt. And he just let it get the better of him, and he got a bit excited, went in with that head. And what should have happened is that he should have probably lost another point and got a stern warning. But the referee said, "Yep, here's my chance." The officials said, "Here's our chance," and they disqualified Danny Green. And I remember just how devastated he was. Jeff Fennick, I remember went berserk in the change rooms. Well, not berserk, you know what I mean, kicking buckets and really spitting the chewy. And the unfortunate thing is that as much as I disagreed with what happened and felt for Danny Green, unfortunately, he just brought this upon himself. He gave the German officials and the board, or whoever it was, a reason to disqualify him, and they took it with both hands. And he did get an opportunity, I think, a couple of years later, and was outpointed conclusively in that fight. But that was his big chance. Unfortunately, as most of you will know, Marcus Bayer did pass away, I think in 2014 from memory. from a sudden illness. I don't know. I did a little bit of research on it. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was sudden and quick, and he passed away, which is obviously tragic for him and his family in the boxing game and everything else. But that was one of those more infamous moments in Australian boxing history. And I've actually done a video about this if you want to go back into the back catalogue, I suppose. I did Australian boxing's 10 most controversial moments, and this was, I think, in the top 3 or 4, I remember. I think Jeff Fennick might have been the number 1. I can't remember, but there's been a few over the years, so check it out. I might revisit that one day, actually, and see what you guys think, but it was Australia's 10 most controversial moments. But that's what happened on this day in boxing history. Now, what's happening in today's world? We've got, what do we got? Got a couple of points there. All right, so tomorrow is the big day. We have Moses Otama and Dillian White and our man Sam Goodman up against Nick Ball. So a little bit of a preview of those fights. We'll start with Sam and Nick. Actually, I'll start with that. So we've got Sam Goodman 20-0. I think 8 knockouts coming up against Nick Ball 22-0-1. Now, for the WBA featherweight title now, I've been watching a little bit of both guys. I mean, I've seen a lot of Sam Goodman, of course, but I've been watching a little bit of Nick Ball over the last couple of days. I've seen him fight numerous times. It's just some days I just like to, when looking at these fights, just go and look at, if I was a trainer or whatever it might be, or the fighter themselves, what would I be looking for to take advantage of? And I see some flaws in Nick Ball, I do. This is a very, very winnable fight for Sam Goodman, make no mistake about it. I think sometimes the fact that it's an Aussie going overseas against, well, I won't say an established champion, but he's had a couple of defences of that belt, Nick Ball, and seems to be on Turkey Al Sheikh's sort of good in his good books at the moment. Seems to be featuring some of his cards. So you would say obviously he's the A fighter or A side fighter, but I was looking at it yesterday and I was looking at what Sam Goodman can do. Now the obvious thing here is that Sam Goodman's lack of power could come back to hurt him. He's got to keep Nick Ball off, who just keeps coming at you for 12 rounds straight and will not give you an inch. But I looked at his fight against TJ Doheny, and I always pronounce that wrong, by the way, so TJ, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say Doheny. Doheny, I think they called him in the telecast, and a few ways they pronounce it. Doheny, I'll call him TJ. And he gave Nick Ball some issues. I know Nick Ball won the fight conclusively, but looking at TJ's not a big puncher either. Southpaw, so it's a little bit different. He probably gave Nick Ball some issues that way, but the way he fought him, giving him angles, and I think Sam Goodman's a better fighter than TJ. But what he did is that he was timing Nick Ball really well. He was spinning off to the side, and I think Sam Goodman can replicate that. Nick Ball, just looking at him, he's very one-dimensional. He reminds me just of a really solid young guy who hasn't really got to where he's got to by natural ability. He's got there just by hard work and just being harder and tougher than his opponent. And look, that worked so well for Jeff Fennick back in the day, so there's nothing wrong with it. Jeff Fennick was never the most gifted athlete or boxer, whatever you might want to call him, but what he made up for that with is just his relentlessness, the fact he's on you for the entire 12 rounds or 15 rounds back then in some of his fights, and he just will be on your chest and he will not let up. The difference is that Nick Ball is not Jeff Fennick. Jeff Fennick would sit on your chest. He would find a way to sit on your chest and just pretty much beat you in a submission. Nick Ball being a lot shorter than his opponent. Jeff back in the day, by the way, was a big guy as far as his height went as well. Nick Ball's a short guy. What is he, 5'1", 5'2", whatever it might be. I don't know what it is, but he's not a tall guy. Looking at actually the weigh-in was pretty comical. I didn't know whether I was watching a boxing weigh-in or a chew-off. Both of them chewing gum at 100 miles an hour. You could probably see the nerves sort of kicking in. And the height difference. I didn't think Sam Goodman was a tall guy, but he's sort of almost had to bend down to look Nick Ball in the eye. It was pretty comical, but I think the fact that, he's not a tall guy and he hasn't got the ability of Jeff, he just doesn't do it the same way. And he can be beaten, don't worry about that. Obviously he can, but the way he comes in, there's not really any method, I don't think, behind the way he comes in. He just sort of crouches low and then just sort of tries to come in with those power shots. Doesn't really come at you at angles either. He just comes in a straight line. The really good sort of those infighters and those aggressive types will come at you from outside the shoulders to maximise their power shots, but also sort of get out of the way of those straight shots coming down the middle. He doesn't do that. And that's where I think if Sam is smart and uses his footwork and times Nick Ball and punches and ties him up and swings him and moves, I think he can outbox Nick Ball over 12 rounds. I really do. Now, easier said than done. Nick Ball did grind down TJ, and he's done that over numerous fights as well. But I think if Sam fights the right fight, and I think I said the other day, start strongly, start quickly, try and win a couple of those early rounds and sort of get off on the right foot, build a little bit of confidence, put Nick Ball on the back foot just a little bit, put him a couple of rounds behind. It might just get him thinking. If he lets Nick Ball come out and just dominate him like TJ Doheny, he did, and even though TJ had success, it just, in my opinion, I don't think he was ever really in the fight and really looking to take that belt from Nick Ball. I think he was sort of looking to maybe sort of box him out, slick him over 12 rounds, which is his style anyway. I mean, that's TJ. But if Sam adopts a similar strategy by just trying to survive, I suppose, in those first few rounds and try and pick up, it's just not going to happen. He needs to start quickly, take a little bit of a leaf out of George Kambosos' book. Even trying, getting a knockdown would be great, but I know it's unlikely. But just to really start quickly, lay a few on Nick Ball, but be smart about it, get his respect. And I think if he does that and maybe wins 3 out of the first 4 rounds or something like that, I think he could be on his way to an upset. Now, will he do it? I don't think I'm game enough to say he will win the fight. I just think that Nick Ball, above everything else, will probably have enough to just maybe get over Sam Goodman. I don't think he stops Sam. I don't think, even though he's sort of known as a little sort of wrecking ball, I don't think he's got that great a power. I think he just sort of wears you down, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Jeff Bennett never had massive power either, but again, he would grind you down. So I think Sam's got more than enough ability to survive the 12 rounds, no problems at all. It's just, for me, comes down to whether he can take the fight on or he just tries to outbox Nick Ball over 12 rounds, which I don't think he can do. As I said, I think if he just tries to outbox Nick and win rounds that way, not going to happen. He's going to have to, at some stage, really try and get Nick's respect. And by what he's saying in the lead up, and just, you can sort of sometimes judge just by someone's mannerisms and their body language and the way they sort of conduct themselves in interviews and even in the weigh-ins and all that sort of stuff, how a fighter's going to sort of come out. And I see a really steely look in Sam Goodman's eyes. This is something he's dreamt about for his entire life, like a lot of fighters, but he's got his opportunity. He's put in a way, disappointments behind him. He's got his chance. He's probably, who knows, going to be stronger at 126. And I think he's going to put in a really solid performance. And as an Aussie, you would expect nothing less. Nothing less. You very rarely see an Aussie go into a world title fight and put in a poor performance. They always deliver, even if they lose. So I think a very, very big chance. Now, as I said, I'm still probably going to lean towards Nick Ball. But as I said, I do not subscribe to a lot of people saying this is a mismatch and it's one-sided. Sam Goodman can win this fight, and if he does win it, I will not be surprised whatsoever. Going to take a fair effort because Nick Ball's not going to give up that belt easy. But if Sam fights the right fight and smart fight, mixed in with a little bit of aggression as well, a little bit of attitude, I think he can win the fight. As for the main event, look, I think I did see that Dillian Whyte came in at his lightest weight in about 10 years, which is, I suppose you could say, is probably a good sign for him. I don't think it sort of makes any difference on the night. Probably what it does do is probably highlights the fact that he cares about the fight and has turned up and trained properly and is committed to the fight, not just taking a payday and everything else. But just looking at Otama yesterday, even some of the shows, Talking Boxing the other night and even these Walking Box, a lot of people commenting that it could be an early night. I think it's going to go two ways. Well, the one way he's definitely going to go is Moses Otama wins the fight. For me, that's just a given. It depends on how he's going to do it. Now, I would think if Dillian Whyte comes out and maybe gets a little bit reckless early, which he can do, he likes to just bowl in that right hand and he gets the emotion, or lets the emotion sort of get the better of him sometimes, gets a bit careless and just starts bowling that big right hand in. If he does that against Moses Otama early, it's going to finish early. But on the other hand, I could probably see if he uses his experience and all of his rounds he's done in the ring and the experiences he's got, he could actually make this he could spoil Otama and make this not a great fight at all and just tie him up for 12 rounds, whatever it is, and Moses Otama gets to win. He gets to win either way, I think, but. A lot of people have compared him to Mike Tyson. Look, the only thing he shares with Mike Tyson, I think at the moment, and this is why he's so dominant as Mike Tyson was back in the day, he's very, very quick. Yes, he's a power puncher. We all know that. But the speed with his feet and his hands is what makes him what he is, as it did with Mike Tyson. A lot of people just say how big a puncher Mike Tyson was, but just watch how fast he was compared to his opponents. Come here, man. He had very, very quick feet, did Mike. Super quick punches. He moved quickly as well. And when I say move, I mean slipping outside and then coming over the top or getting down and coming up from underneath. Did it very, very quickly. That's what made him, well, he was a big puncher, but also gave him a little bit of the illusion of even being a bigger puncher. And that's probably what I see with Moses Otama. I don't necessarily think he's a massive puncher. Yes, he's a big puncher, but there's a difference between massive and big. And I just think the fact his timing is so good and he's so much faster than his opponents, he just lands clean, he lands flush. And obviously, no matter how big a punch you are, if you land clean and flush, you're going to do some damage. So, yeah, very, very impressed with Moses Otama. I must admit, up until the last sort of 2 or 3 days when I sort of sat down and watched a fair bit of his footage, I just thought he was a little bit mechanical, a little bit trying to be maybe a little bit of a Mike Tyson sort of clone and just sort of get in there and bomb opponents out. And I really thought someone like Dillian Whyte might make life hard for him. But just watching him in the last couple of days, as I said, the speed and timing and of his feet, his hands, his shoulders, everything about him, just spells bad news for Dillian Whyte and probably a lot of the heavyweights in the division. So, look, I think Moses Otama stops Dillian Whyte. I'm hoping that he's the fighter that we all think he is and is smart enough, even at this early stage of his career, where he won't get tied up by Dillian Whyte and let him be negated by Dillian Whyte. I think no matter what happens, Moses Otama gets the stoppage win in this. Whether it's early, depends on Dillian Whyte. If he's reckless, Dillian Whyte, it ends in 2 or 3 rounds. If he's a bit more cautious and maybe boxes a little bit smarter for a few rounds, I still think it could be 6, 7, 8 rounds for Moses Otama. But good test for him, really good test for him. And let's hope he delivers tomorrow. So it should be a really, really good card. Hrgovic and Adaya, or whatever his name is, on the undercard should be a good fight. Ford and what's his guy's name with the beard? Whatever his name is. Should be entertaining as well. Should be a good card. Will I get up for it? No, I won't be getting up for it. I'm thinking I'll get up at around 6:30, 7 o'clock. And maybe catch a little bit on YouTube, whatever it might be. Sometimes you can catch a stream or whatever it might be. But I'm not going to pay for the card, especially getting up that early to watch it all. But should be good. What else have we got happening at the moment? If I can find my little notes here. Actually, by the way, the records: Dillian Whyte 31-3. Moses Otama 12-1. So again, should be a ripper. All right, I see that this is an interesting one. Virgil Ortiz and Erickson Lubin look like they're going to fight. Come this way, man. Now, I think we're all under the impression that it was going to be Murtazaliov and Lubin all signed up, ready to go. But from what I'm reading this morning is that Virgil Ortiz, I think it's going to be October 18th, will fight. So I don't know where that leaves Bakram Murtazaliov. Geez, the poor guy. I mean, if I was him, I think the first move I would be making is to get a new team around me. Now, there's nothing wrong in theory with the team he has, the Duvers. They've been around a long time and been a part of boxing for decades. The problem is that they're almost yesterday's news. So he needs to get himself with a Golden Boy or a Matchroom, even better with the Riyadh season crew, or else he's just going to sit on the shelf and rot. This guy hasn't fought since he knocked out Tim Tszyu, a year ago, nearly a year ago. So you got to wonder where he goes. Now, he's got his mandatory challenger in Erickson Lubin, but even Lubin is not going to fight him now because they can't come to terms and can't get a promoter and to put up the money and can't get things organised. So Lubin said, well, you know what? I won't fight for the world title. I'll fight another guy for an interim world title because that guy is hooked up with obviously Golden Boy and lots of contacts, and Oscar can obviously get the fight done, and it's for the interim, and if he wins that, well, it can probably lead to a shot at Sebastian Fundora at some stage. So I do feel for Bakram Murtazalov. He had his career best win last year against him and has not fought since, and at the moment has still not got a fight locked in, even though he's been ready to go for probably 6 months. So this is the dark side of boxing, I suppose. The stuff that a lot of people don't see is that if you're not with the right people and they're not doing the right things for you, you can literally just sit there and nothing happens. So let's hope something happens for Murtazalov. I mean, geez, we're in the 140-pound, 154-pound division, for Christ's sake. It's the hottest division in boxing with some of the best fighters out there, and one of the top 2 or 3 fighters in the division can't get a fight. Sebastian Fundora's obviously got them all lined up. They all want a piece of him. They all see him as beatable. Crawford's WBA belt, of course, is not in play at the moment, but geez, and Zayos has got the WBO belt. You can be guaranteed that they'll be lining up for a shot at him as well. But our man, Bakram Murtazalov, can't get a fight. So it's a shame, but again, that is boxing for you. Now, the other thing I did see is that Alexander Usyk has asked for an extension of the deadline to start negotiations with Joseph Parker. I think he's had a back injury or something like that. So that will be put off. Look, either way, Joseph Parker will be either fighting Usyk for the world title or he will be crowned world title. Either way, it all looks pretty good for Joseph Parker, because if Usyk decides not to fight him, he doesn't have to fight for the belt. Parker, he'll be elevated to full WBO champion. And then the flip side, if Usyk does want to fight him, of course, he gets a shot at all the belts for some massive money. So not all doom and gloom for Joseph Parker. He'll get his shot. And the thing is now, if Moses Otama wins tomorrow, you would probably think that it could be Parker and Otama next if Usyk doesn't fight Parker for that WBO belt. What a fight that would be. So lots to look forward to in the division. Plenty happening at the moment. And with the fights tomorrow, really looking forward to more than anything, of course, to seeing how Sam Goodman goes on the big stage and whether he can bring another belt back to Australia and just add to what is really a golden era of Aussie boxing at the moment. So, excuse me, all the very best to Sam Goodman and the team tomorrow. So guys, that's going to do it. Hope you have a great Saturday, and we'll catch you tomorrow.